Hello everyone, welcome to another video. In this video I would like to show you my first Leaguestarter build for the upcoming Delirium League, which is a Caustic Arrow and Toxic Rain Trickster. This is an excellent Leaguestarter build because you can take on all the content in the game with very generic and easy to get gear. We are only using a single unique item and most of our gear is self-crafted, so you can probably consider this build for solo self-found as well. Leveling process is pretty smooth, so you'll get to maps rather quickly, and the build can run all map mods without having to reroll, which is an amazing quality for a Leaguestarter build. Damage over time builds are pretty defensive in the sense that you can just run around while things are dying. So as I've said earlier, you can pretty much do all the content in the game fairly smoothly. The build has pretty respectable clear speed, single target damage, and it's also fairly tanky. The gameplay you are seeing in the video is done at Awakening level 8, and my gear is really nothing special with mostly self-crafted rares. I will leave a path of building link in the description with some important notes for early league progression, so you can check that out. I will be making more Leaguestarter builds as well, so if you're interested in that, stay tuned, subscribe to the channel. I will quickly finish this map and then I will talk about the gear. Okay, so let's quickly go over the gear. Since this is supposed to be a Leaguestarter build guide, I will go over some of your earlier options first and then talk about the endgame options. I will start with the most important stuff. Okay, so for weapons, the first thing you're going to be looking for is a silver branch. This will probably be like a couple of chaos orbs when you when it first comes to the market. You can buy one of these and then upgrade it with the Silverwood Prophecy if you can find one later on for a silver bow, which will give you like a +2 to level of socketed bow gems. This will pretty much carry out throughout most of the game and early tier maps, so these will be good options. For the end game stuff, you're looking for either Porcupine cards for a 6-link short bow, and then you can use a Shrieking Essence of Dread for the +2 to level of socketed bow gems. Or the other option, which is the superior option, is going for the Imperial Legacy cards, which will give you a 6-link Imperial bow. And since this is item level 100, you can also get +3 to level of socketed bow gems. Getting a +3 to level of socketed bow gems is fairly easy, getting +2 and +1 separately. You can craft it by using metallic, prismatic, and then corroded fossils. These fossils combined will block a lot of undesired bad mods and make it very easy for you to get a +3 bow like this. And then for your end game option, you're looking for an open prefix as well to craft that chaos damage over time multiplier. It's quite a bit of damage boost, so look for open prefix as well when you're crafting bows. For our gloves, amulet, and quiver, we are using hunter influenced items because in these slots, hunter influenced items can roll that chaos damage over time multiplier affix, as you can see. Crafting these are incredibly easy. Just get the base, hunter influenced base, and then use aberrant fossils. Aberrant fossils will make it easier for you to get that chaos damage over time multiplier. And on top of that, you're looking for some life and resistances. It doesn't matter too much because we are using a lot of rare items, and capping resistances isn't really an issue. So just look for the chaos damage over time multiplier affix, and then maybe a life and resistance mod on top of that. And I would also highly recommend going for a penetrating arrow quiver. Go for this base. The additional pierce, the arrows pierce an additional target, will synergize really well with the Caustic Arrow and increase your clear speed by quite a bit, so I would recommend going for this base. For the body armor, I decided to go with Carcass Jack. It gives you a lot of life, evasion, resistances, area of effect, and area damage, which is super nice for the build. Early league, obviously, you're not going to have access to this for the first couple of days, so then you can go for a Tabula Rasa, farm humility cards and blood aqueducts, and then get yourself a Tabula Rasa until you can afford a Carcass Jack. For your helm, once again, you're going to craft it yourself. Just buy a base, preferably with Caustic Arrow or Toxic Rain damage enchant, and then use Aberrant Fossils. Aberrant Fossils will give you that 5th mod. Nearby enemies have minus chaos resistances, and on top of that, you're looking for things like life and resistances. For our rings, once again, you're going to craft it yourself. You can craft it by using Essences of Envy. This will give you an increased chaos damage mod on your rings. As I've said earlier, capping your resistances is fairly easy since we are using a lot of rare items, so you don't need anything special in here. Spend a couple of essences until you get some life mod maybe, or resistances. You can also craft those yourselves as well, so keep that in mind. End game, you're probably going to want to look for open suffix so that you can craft that last mod, +1 to minimum endurance charges. I'm sorry. This will give you an endurance charge all the time, which is physical damage mitigation, so it will help out quite a bit with the survivability. And then finally, for your belts and your boots, you're just looking for a lot of life and resistances. Obviously, look for movement speed on your boots. And then you can get things like flash charges gained, flask effect duration on your belt for some extra quality of life. Overall, gearing the character shouldn't be too expensive and too hard. Just look for a lot of aberrant fossils because you'll be using quite a bit of these early on, to craft all of this gear. Look for these fossils as well because you're going to craft the bow yourself. And then maybe a couple of Essences of Envy and you should be good. So I guess that's it about the gear. Okay, so for Flasks, Divine Life Flask of Staunching for the bleed removal, Enduring Divine Mana Flask of Warding for the curse removal. Getting that Enduring mod is very important, so keep that in mind. This is always your go-to. Silver Flask of Heat for the freeze removal, and then Witchfire Brew will give you a lot of survivability, damage, and then cursed enemies with despair, so it's a really nice flask for this build. Later on, like if you manage to get a Stygian Vice, you can put an Abyssal Jewel in here, which will give you like onslaught on kill, and then you can replace this with a Sulfur Flask for some extra damage. So I guess that's it about the flasks. Okay, so for gems, we are linking our Caustic Arrow with Void Manipulation, which is projectiles, damage on full life, Swift Affliction, and then finally Conk Effect. This is basically the order that you want to go for these gems, like in terms of levels. This will be available at level 8. These are level 18, and then I believe these are like level 31. If you can't afford like the 6 link, 5 link, whatever, if you don't have that early on in the league, obviously, you're gonna go for Caustic Arrow, Vicious Projectiles, and then damage on full life, and then add like Swift Affliction, Void Manipulation, and then probably add Conk Effect the final as your final support gem. The Toxic Rain setup is pretty much the same as Caustic Arrow. The only difference is we are using Mirage Archer instead of Conk Effect. So I would recommend getting this early on. I believe this is like level 4. The Toxic Rain will be available at level 12. So using both of these gems will definitely make your leveling process easier. For the beginning of the league, the 4 link setup is going to look like this. Caustic Arrow, damage on full life, Vicious Projectiles, and then Swift Affliction. And for the Toxic Rain, you're going to link it with Mirage Archer, Vicious Projectiles, and the damage on full life. We have a Withered Spell Totem setup as well. Wither is linked with Spell Totem, multiple totems, and then faster casting. This will give you an insane amount of damage boost against bosses. And early league, you're probably not going to have a 4 link for it, but I would recommend at least using a Spell Totem and then Wither, which will help you quite a bit against bosses. And we have a Frenzy Curse on Hit setup as well. Frenzy is linked with Curse on Hit, Despair, and then finally Greater Multiple Projectiles. This will curse enemies, obviously, and it will also make it so that you can sustain your Frenzy charges in boss fights. And finally, we have a Malevolence for a lot of damage. Skitter Boss will shock and chill enemies, which is once again a lot of damage and a bit of a survivability boost because of the chill. Flame Dash as your movement ability. And then finally, Withering Step. This will give you elusive, phasing, and it will also apply Wither to enemies, which will help you like stack up your damage faster against big targets. For like completing these gems, I would recommend completing this quest, Fallen from Grace. This is the first quest in Act 6, and if like once you clear all the monsters in Twilight Strand, the vendor there, I'm not sure what the name is, like Lily or Nessa, will sell the gems that you need, so you can like complete the gems as well with that quest. So I guess that's it about the gems. Okay, so for passive tree, we are playing Trickster. Trickster will give you a lot of recovery, damage, frenzy, and power charge generation while you're mapping, and it will also give you a bit of a survivability boost thanks to the Ghost Dance Ascendancy. So it's a pretty strong ascendancy for this type of character. Okay, for the jewels, there's quite a bit of things you can get, like chaos damage, projectile damage, area damage, damage over time multiplier. These are pretty much the mods that you want to look for. Even though I don't really know how the new jewels are gonna work, like if they're gonna be worth it. If you find something juicy, you can like probably use it in here and like progress outwards to get that juicy stuff. Other than that, in terms of like progression you want to take, this is basically like the kind of progression you want to go for. Take these damage nodes, the damage over time, the chaos damage in here, and then go for these at 23 points. 42 points, you're gonna look something like this. You're gonna go for like life and damage over time in here. 68 points, you're gonna go for chaos damage over time in here, acrobatics, some life and frenzy charges. And then 89 points is gonna look something like this. You're gonna go for like the duelist area, get the life damage, you know, frenzy charge in here, and then you can fill out the rest. Doesn't matter too much. For the ascendancy order, you're gonna go for prolonged pain first, swift killer second, and then finally get ghost dance from your Uber lab. Anointment options, corruption is your best bet for damage, but early on, if that's not accessible, you can go for something like aspect of the eagle, I guess. Also, I should have mentioned this as well. You know, if you have the money later in the league, you can swap out the Void Manipulation for Empower, which will give you an insane amount of damage boost as well. So keep that in mind. Okay, before I move on, I wrote a couple of notes in this POB as well. Like this is mostly stuff I mentioned in the video, like how to craft the bow, how to get some of the gear. But you can also like refer to these notes as well. I will leave a path of building link in the description. For Pantheons, the big one is up to you. You can go for whatever you want. I would recommend going for Soul of Shikari while mapping for the poison immunity. And then for bosses, you can swap out to Soul of Rislatha, which will give you like flash charges sustain on your life flasks. Okay, so I guess that's gonna be it for this character. As I've said earlier, wow, that voice crack. I will be making more build guides for like Leaguestarter builds, so stay tuned for that. You know, subscribe to the channel. I stream on twitch.tv/ilvl. You know, even though I haven't been able to stream lately, like due to school and whatnot, I hope to like have a fixed schedule soon. So I'll definitely be working on that. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. I would really appreciate that. I appreciate all the supports, like the subscribers, the nice comments and whatnot. You guys are amazing. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one.